So we are following the developments in South Korea. Yesterday's attempt to impose martial law aimed to establish a military dictatorship in the country. This was to save the president from impeachment. By the way, it was Yoon Suk Yeol himself who made this attempt. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Well, South Korea existed under what is commonly referred to in the West as limited democracy for almost the entire second half of the 20th century. The deep reasons for these processes and the possible developments in our democracy are a daily topic for Koreans. Report by Oleg Romanov.
A few days ago, a cafe opened in South Korea, attracting customers with the opportunity to observe life in North Korea through binoculars and from afar, enjoying peace, comfort, and safety. Now, North Koreans can watch the events in their neighboring country with curiosity, because there's surely nothing even remotely similar to what happened with their southern brothers, where the army tried to block the parliament, special forces moved to control key government institutions, armored vehicles appeared on the streets of the capital, and citizens were ordered to observe a curfew. The conflict between the executive and legislative branches of power flared up in South Korea at the beginning of the week. The parliament dismissed the state auditor and the country's attorney general. Opposition deputies were preparing to initiate impeachment proceedings against President Yoon Suk Yeol. He is suspected of financial fraud in which the president's wife is also implicated. The prospects for the country's leader were looking very grim. It should be noted that the president of South Korea is practically a kamikaze. Out of Yoon Suk Yeol's 12 predecessors, 3 were overthrown, 1 was killed, and 5 ended up in prison, where 1 committed suicide. The current head of state's approval rating is a miserable 17%, and public support could not protect him. To avoid spending the rest of his life behind bars, he apparently decided to go all in. On the night of December 4th, Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law in the country. As stated in the decree, to protect liberal South Korea from threats posed by the communist forces of North Korea, and to eliminate anti-state elements, special forces were ordered to block the parliament. All political activity was banned in the country, military censorship was established in the media, military helicopters patrolled the skies over Seoul, and the city was flooded with military equipment. The success of the military coup was supposed to be ensured by the dissolution of parliament. It was officially dissolved, but deputies broke into the building to hold an emergency session. They engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the military, stormed barricades, and showed extraordinary bravery in trying to reach their workplace. In the end, the session was opened, although only 200 out of 300 elected representatives attended. Martial law was overturned by an overwhelming majority of those present. The military blocking the parliament began to disperse, and the coup effectively ended as soon as it began. Only sporadic clashes between the military and opposition supporters continued on the streets. Today, a mass exodus began from the ranks of the defeated. The president's administration resigned almost in full. The defense minister stepped down. On December 6-7, the parliament will again consider the issue of impeachment, and President Yoon Suk Yeol can no longer expect mercy. Even some deputies from the pro-government faction are likely to vote for his removal.
Let's take a look at what's happening in the world. In a couple of months, a new U.S. president will take office. And the outgoing U.S. administration is trying to leave as many conflicts as possible for the new administration. What is happening now in South Korea? I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but the trend is obvious.
It is noteworthy that the current path will impact regions of the planet quite distant from South Korea. Ukraine was negotiating with Seoul for arms supplies. Now that can be forgotten. The South Korean president will certainly not be able to focus on this for a long time, even if he manages to avoid impeachment. Poland plans to rearm its army with South Korean loans and South Korean weapons. The amount in question is over 20 billion. This too may face long-term delays. In general, the fleeting failed Seoul coup could have the most serious and long-term global consequences. Although for now we can only speculate about them. Oleg Romanov, Mikhail Drugakov, First Information.